So, the NFL season's over.
As he was headed out of bounds, here's a pick!
Getting a block, that's 6!
Pitched it back to Allen, who's going to go to the goal line! And the ball is caught! Somersaults in! Eagles fly in Super Bowl 59!
So, now what? We're just not going to have football for the next 7 months? Oh, God. They really suck you into the longest offseason hype cycle of any pro sport in America. Combine, free agency, draft picks, trades, rookie camp, OTAs, training camp, just to get to preseason, then play for 5 months, crown a champion, and cycle. But let's say you hate trade rumors, talk shows, contract details, people vamping to fill TV time. You just want the action. What do you watch when the NFL ends? I think any sane person says sports are year-round, find another one to watch. And I do.
Austin Matthews rips it! Sam Bennett, Brady Kachuk, Henry, Spinorama, shoots, scores! In front, scores! Jonathan Greenard!
Granted, this is easier for me as a fan of a team that's been playoff relevant for most of the decade, has 2 of the best players in the world, and hoisted the cup a few years back. But by the time football ends, hockey's already in full swing. Around 30 games left in the year, the final postseason push, and when we get to May, there is nothing like the cup playoffs.
David Pastrnak wins it for Boston!
And if I'm not feeling that, I can always watch the best basketball player in the world.
Oh, it's good!
Colorado's just a little OP right now. But it's not football. It's fun, but football fans aren't psychologically attuned to it. I'll look at my phone and it's a 50-50 gamble if there's an Avs game on that day or not, when I know for a fact there's a Broncos game on almost every Sunday. Putting on live hockey almost whenever throughout the week is cool, but scarcity and scheduling has always worked in football's favor here. I happily let it dominate 1/7 of my week, even more if I'm trying to snipe on the waiver wire, and other sports don't have quite the same boisterous culture.
Fuck you, bitch! Somebody jump on sides, damn!
Kraken, Hogwarts.
The fuck is that?
So it hasn't been distracting you?
Oh my God. Next question.
Hockey for me is a nice distraction, but I've also been gravitating towards something else that has football in the name.
Penetrating ball, Elliott! Right from the corner, start to work its way back! Amon's tackled, second ball! He brings the house down!
I don't know what could have drawn me toward Aussie rules other than the NFL being an offseason. I've known about it for ages and been curious, but no gridiron meant it was time to see what Australia was up to. I watched my first AFL game like, this is awesome. What is happening? 18-man teams, ellipsoid ball, oval field, 3 sets of uprights, disposals, dribbling, marks, the worst team in the league gets a wooden spoon? As a kid who didn't get enough rugby or soccer growing up to maybe draw similarities from those sports to this, I feel totally lost. But that's where the fun is. The lack of understanding I have for Aussie rules is what drives me to want to understand it more. The comprehension and fandom I have for one sport and the curiosity and fascination for the other feel like they tickle the same place in my brain, and it starts only a few weeks after the Super Bowl. Aussie rules doesn't bear any similarities to the gridiron, but it's got its own legacy. The first NFL season was in 1920. The first AFL season was 23 years before. A culture deeply rooted in the history of the country. The largest spectator sport in Australia. 18 teams, attendance records around 90,000, collisions, nasty kicks, clubs all over the country, and a sort of national football league. Sorry, National Footy League, just to keep the lawyers happy. And the Australians out of my comments. I'm only in my second year of seeing what this sport's about. I've barely scratched the surface, but it's not quite there. So we might need to find something a little bit closer to what I'm used to.
Not caught. A.J. Allen has it in his hand. Not a flag in sight. Fogan with that house call. He's into the end zone. He wasn't touched. He can run all the way to Montreal.
It's crazy how many people don't know the CFL exists unless some weird play hits Twitter that the NFL community treats like an affront to God. It's been there, before the old American Football League even, yet in America, It's always the black sheep. You wouldn't know about it unless you went looking for it, but Canadians love that shit, and it's easy to see why. 12 men on the field, big-ass field, 2 50-yard lines, uprights in the end zone, multiple men in motion, defense lines up further back, fourth down isn't in the rule book, shorter play clock, different ball, no fair catches, certain plays give your opponent 1 point, and you can win a game by missing a field goal. It is wild up north. And it comes back before the NFL does, about 2 months of football before preseason, if you can stomach the odd number of teams, ads all over the field, and the French. It's football of a different code, presenting the idea, what if we made the game physically bigger and then balanced the rules to offset that? It's still the football spectacle, it's just the version the Canucks came up with. But if you're an NFL fanatic, you probably don't think it's an acceptable substitute. The rule differences might be cool, but they're not a draw. They might even turn you off. American networks don't carry games or even give it a mention when they could be talking about Bills training camp videos instead. And if you like the NFL and college football, you know what spectacle looks like. Nothing else really competes. It's got nothing to do with the talent on the field, because
Giddens goes up and gets it! Oh boy, a beauty!
It's just not quite what we're looking for. What this sounds like to me is the search for something that happens over the offseason, scratches our itch for comp sports, takes place around the same time every week, gives us something new to sink our teeth into, puts a spin on an already familiar formula, and, most importantly, is still football. That all sounds like the whole spring football has been trying to fill for years.
Was it picked off? Was that kept off the turf? Taking a shot downfield. Got him in! To the end zone. Michigan wins it. What a shoulder putting on here in St. Louis.
7 months of no football is a big void, but lots of leagues have tried. At one point, 2 of them ran simultaneously, and now there's only 1. But the idea has been the same. 8 teams, 2 conferences, slightly modified rule set, extra point shenanigans, sick team branding, TV deals, interviews mid-play, penalty transparency, drones and helmet cams, all for players who aren't in the NFL anymore or didn't get drafted. On network television you don't even need cable for. Right in that sweet spot between the Super Bowl and the start of training camp. That should be enough draw for football fans, desperate for something else to consume after a team they hate just won the Lombardi. And it kind of has been. That 2019 AAF season had an average viewership of 700,000 and attendance of 15,000 before it went bankrupt. The 2020 XFL season averaged 1.9 million viewers and 18,000 in person before the pandemic. The 22 USFL, when the whole season was played in Birmingham, averaged 700K, and when those two went head-to-head, they shared similar viewership. The UFL, through its first season, pulled seemingly good numbers.
And the numbers from 2025 took a dip, but, I mean, they're not that much worse.
But, as with all spring leagues, it depends on where you go. Some markets with already established NFL teams really showed out and made games a fun place to be. Some didn't. Some cities that have never had an NFL team had great attendance. Some didn't. And St. Louis, let's just say the Rams leaving was a crime.
Andre Schmidt is good! And St. Louis wins it!
That's 2 full decks at the Dome. 40,000 people to watch a minor league football team. Sick uniforms, a city desperate for football. Cause the law. Memphis? Huh. Spring football post-pandemic feels like it both is and isn't working. Makes sense for a product that's still relatively new, but whether it's doing its job fulfilling the need that we have in our hearts for more football is still up in the air. 32 teams worth of players at the upper echelon of the sport means spring leagues have to pull from a less talented pool. Games are still competitive, but more error-prone or likely to produce subpar play. Some cities are really into the idea, some not as much, and the audience at home can tell. And the rule differences from the NFL were initially a big selling point, but now even the NFL is adopting a modified version of the XFL kickoff. And they're not even doing it right.
Damn, we gotta get back to that.
Competition quality, league interest, spectacle, they're all buzzwords, but all of them play a factor for people considering whether they want to watch something. and it still feels like spring football is trying to figure out what it wants to be. The NHL knows it's the ultimate competition for whacking a puck with a stick on ice wearing shorts and skates. It doesn't question the absurdity, it leans into the tradition and spectacle the sport creates. The AFL runs as a pillar of Australian sports culture and showcases a game played almost nowhere else in the world. It doesn't question what it is, it presents it with pride, right down to the victory songs, some over a century old. The CFL puts a whole new spin on the game and gives Canadian football fans a local option to also invest themselves into. It doesn't think of itself as inferior to the NFL, it does its own separate thing. Even the leagues that merged into the UFL had some of that nailed down. The XFL went brash with its branding and how they changed up the rules. The USFL revived a classic property and felt like modern football with a vintage look. The UFL's first season tried to marry those two vibes together, like a family in California going to visit relatives in Texas, and in so doing, lost a bit of that vibe and felt more corporate. Is it still trying to branch out and be innovative in ways other leagues haven't adopted? Is it trying to be unique unto itself, or just be a feeder for the NFL? Can it find an identity that makes people want to tune in or show up beyond just being the only league playing meaningful football in March? Viewership says maybe. And if it can, consistently, I want this to be a thing forever. Players who went undrafted and still want a shot at the pros. Players who went to the NFL but can't hold on to roster spots. Guys who make a name for themselves specifically as spring football kings. Former high draft picks trying to rehabilitate their careers. College football darlings who want to prove they can be more than just that. YouTubers trying to make it pro. It all exists on UFL rosters. It just needs to get out to the masses. And for fans of college football especially, or the Jets, watching players who aren't the best in the world is already kind of part of the charm. But even then, being the second, third, fourth guys on college rosters doesn't make them bad players, and another national TV spot to showcase what they can do could just be their ticket to the big league. And the UFL has also got incentive to make sure their on-field product is actually watchable, if not entertaining, so spending resources on actual player development is a win for all involved. But make no mistake, if the UFL doesn't continue making improvements to presentation and doing a better job reminding people that it exists, then they wouldn't be the first to falter before really getting started. Ultimately, there's nothing that can really sub in for the NFL. It just sits in this bubble of being just long enough, but also not nearly long enough, holding us captive all year long, either because it's running or because we miss it. But there are other options out there, and for people who primarily follow football, the biggest sports viewership draw on the continent, all those other sports are competing for your eyeballs every spring and summer. The idea of having a spring league finally manifest itself as a staple on the calendar does excite me as a fan of the sport. I just hope the guys in charge do it right, so that when you ask, what do we watch when the NFL ends, they've got an option for you.
One last thing I'll say about this, I wrote and recorded this video a few months ago, and at that point the UFL had already been running a few weeks into its regular season, and then before I knew it, it was already 3 weeks past the championship game, and I hadn't done anything to tune in or catch highlights or anything beyond those first few weeks. I was hoping that it would get a lot more publicity or more marketing, and yet we're here at a point where I had to do a lot of catch up on what the UFL had been like the past few weeks from reading Wikipedia articles, so yeah, good luck with that, guys. I really do hope it works out.